Hello everyone, Guten Erev Shabbos. There's a very powerful vart the Rebbe shares regarding this week's Parsha, although it's in a Sikha from last week's Parsha, which is, when summing up Sarah's life in Chayei Sara, it says, these are the years of Sarah, Mea Shana, Ve'esrim Shana, Ve'sheva Shanim, Shnei Chayei Sara. Says Rashi, Shnei Chayei Sara, all of Sarah's years were equally good. Now, when you look back at her life, how can you say that all of her life was equally good, equally in tzidkus, even in her righteousness? If her and Avram only found Hashem, only became Jews at 75, originally they were idol worshippers. Avraham, it says also in this week's Parsha, that Avraham Zakin Baba Yamim, the Zayar says on that Avraham's, all of his days were complete. Seemingly, at a minimum, Avram only found Hashem when he was 3 years old. Before that, he was in a house of idol worshippers, the worst of era, the worst of the worst. Some say he was even 48 when he found Hashem. So that means the first 48 of his 175 years were very imperfect, were involved in Avodah Zarah. How can we then say that all of his years were perfect? So the Rebbe draws on an interesting halachic parallel in order to answer this, which is the obligation to make your children do a mitzvah before 13 is not min haTorah. It's only min derabanan. Min haTorah, Judaism starts at 13 years old, for the most part. Torah doesn't demand you go shake lulav with your son when he's 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. At 13, start shaking lulav. At 13, start putting on tefillin, start wearing tzitzis. The whole Judaism for the child, or the practicing of mitzvahs, should start at 13. Midrabanan, we practice earlier, so we'll get used to it at 13, because you need to practice. You can't just go straight into Major League Baseball without playing Little League, without practicing. So midrabanan, we practice, but min haTorah, we don't need to. Now the Rebbe asks, why midairaisa would we not need to practice? If min haTorah, I'm meant to know how to keep Judaism, keep Shabbos, Kiddush, all the mitzvahs, when I'm 13 years old, what does that mean that I don't need to practice before? Seemingly, doing it properly at 13 demands and necessitates that I need to do beforehand, before I'm 13, in order to be able to do it properly, perfectly, when I'm 13. And the Rebbe answers with a revolutionary approach. Torah, when it demands that you jump into Judaism, jump into Torah mitzvahs at 13 years old, it does not expect you to do it perfectly. It expects you to enter the fray, to try. You will make mistakes, but that's part of the Judaism that you've entered. It's going to take you time. Torah expects that at 13 we start doing mitzvahs, knowing that it's going to take us time to perfect it. It doesn't expect us to enter at 13 and all of a sudden be perfect. Because the trial and error is part of our success. We think error is an opposite of our success, but Torah expects successful Judaism to come with trial, error, that's predetermined, that's pre-set up into our avodah, and success comes through failure. Success comes through error. And that's the Judaism that the Torah, min haTorah, is expected at 13. According to the Chachamim, why not do it better when we're earlier? But Torah doesn't give us the okay for failure, but says that our failure while we're trying to succeed, while we're in our search for Hashem, and we hit speed bumps on the way, that is allowed and that is okay, and that's part of success. Avraham, while he was searching for Hashem, through 48 years old, when he was born into idol worship, even though he might have made many mistakes along the way, those are called perfect years. Part of Avraham's perfect, complete years. Part of Sarah's complete and perfect years. Even though there were mistakes, and very grave mistakes. But those mistakes were part of the journey of trying to find Hashem. There's a famous story of a woman named Miriam Rhodes, who lives in Eretz Yisrael, who says she was born to a very secular Californian family, and at some point she got in a spiritual journey trying to find the truth, and she went to all the Eastern Asian Avodah Zarah religions. She tried everything. At some point, her father was sick, I think, and she went to go back to California. On the way, she stopped by Brooklyn. Someone said to check out Crown Heights. She stayed for Pesach, and she loved it. And she started becoming a Lubavitcher. And she wrote into the Rebbe at some point how tainted her neshama is. What could she do to fix all of her Avodah Zarah? She literally tried everything in the book. And she was waiting for the Rebbe to write a whole Seder Avodah of what she could do to fix herself. And the Rebbe said, in describing her going from thing to thing to thing until she found the Rebbe, she said, the Rebbe wrote, you're a example of what the Gemara says in Megillah, Yagaiti umatzasi tamin. You searched and you found. In other words, your Avodah Zarah was not bad, tainted, stained, and now you need to go rectify that. You were searching for God. You were searching for truth. That journey brought you in some speed bumps along the way as you were trying to find this. but it was coming from a good place. It was stemming from your search for truth. Hence, it brought you here. Look, you ended up at the truth. So you don't need to view yourself as a paradox of being stained by a bunch of failures, because the failures that brought you here are part of your success. As the famous, profound statement goes, success means going from failure to failure without losing steam in between. Have a wonderful Shabbos.